Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the Rise of the Immortals trophy with me, your host, Guile. I hope you've been enjoying the action. The things are really heating up as we approach the end of the group stages, and in case you feel like you need a catch-up, as always, there will be a link in the description below this video to the playlist that my friends and casters have been hard at work putting together for you, cataloguing all the action. To that end, incidentally, if you've been enjoying TA for Life's coverage, unfortunately he's going to be bowing out for a little while. I'm not sure whether he'll be back before the end of the tourney. He's got a lot of stuff going on, real life issues, so we wish him all the best and hope he'll be back with us soon. But not to worry, because there are 3 of us casters left, and we're going to be cataloguing all of the action and bringing it to you as it unfurls. So, without further ado, and to that end, I have a Pool 3, Round 3 match between those said casters, the YouTube stars, and the Brainbunch. Normally I would be rooting for the Brainbunch. They're pretty dynamic players, and some of them more fun to watch. But of course, I've got to stick with my YouTube stars, my fellow casters, not just because they're my fellow YouTubers, but also because they are the underdogs. I know they won't mind me saying that, because if we take a look, you can see at the top right hand corner the difference between them and the Brainbunch in the global ladder rankings. So they are definitely going to have to work for this one, but I'm excited to see what happens. So without further ado, let's start the action and see how they get on. Up here at the top, you've got TJ. He's going blue UEF. His teammate Napalm is going red UEF. Down at the bottom, we have Brainwashed, who is going, I guess that's teal UEF. And orange, we're going, Brainfart's going Seraphim, which is, makes a little bit more sense. I like to see a little bit of shift in tech. If you've already got UEF on your team, why not spread out, get some more toys? But obviously, huge open space territory is going to be key. And of course, this map, Crazy Rush, absolutely bizarre. It does at first glance look like it's just one mass point at all the starting locations, but of course that is not the case, because every time you build a mass point in these base areas, all of the surrounding ones open up for you to build more. As you can see up here, if we look at Napalm, he's got a few up already, and massive queues for T1 power, because of course mass isn't going to be a problem. You're going to want to get as much power up and running as quickly as possible, because it's going to be a very land heavy spam fest. So it's going to be lots of factories, lots of power, and lots of hard work at getting everything up and running as soon as possible. See rather unusual power configurations there for TJ. And taking a look at the early chat, TJ and Napalm just ask each other if they've been doing any practicing. Doesn't sound like they've been doing too much, so come on boys, don't let me down. I know you don't have a lot of time, what with your casting and everything, but we'll have to see what they're doing. You can see the mass points popping up there as each time they build a new one, more ones appear. But looks like the early units coming out for the Brainbunch, and nothing in respect of that for the YouTube stars. In fact, literally just working on engineers, and this is probably going to hurt them, because it's going to require ACUs to deal with this. And of course, all of the time that the ACUs are spent attacking incoming units means vital build time where they could be doing other things. And of course, while the conflict is kept up at this corner of the map, the Brainbunch are free to keep expanding. So nice teamwork. The Combat Scout coming out for Brainwashed, and T1 Seraphim Artillery coming out for Brainfart. 4 power gens go down in one fell swoop, and that is really going to hurt TJ. And now a little run by with the artillery as well, just working on those mass points that have literally only just gone up. This is really gonna hurt the YouTube stars, and Napalm is forced to pull his ACU out of the out of his home base, where it really is vital to keep it for as much build capacity as possible. And of course, there's only one mech marine left, but if you take a look at the scopes, it's just, you're not to know it. At this stage in the game, of course, they have little or no radar coverage, so you know, for all they know, there is going to be a continuous stream of units heading north from the bottom of the map. And that mech marine manages to pick up 1 engineer kill, is now hard at work on that power gen, but is not going to get it as a striker comes in and promptly cleans him up. Meanwhile, of course, Napalm really didn't need to move his ACU across. Admittedly, he wasn't to know. So he's just doing the best he can at protecting his teammate. And the first few units from Napalm come out to meet a few units of Brainwashed in the center of the map. And this is where we're going to see the main development of the game. It's going to be a tug of war from the center of the map. It's kind of quintessentially what you get if the game is remotely even in any way. You can see the amount of land spam that is queued up by both teams. Absolutely colossal. I'd say slightly more ordered look to the Brainbunch than the YouTube stars, but that is just the difference between American planning and German planning. Right there. Look how ordered that is. I love it. But you can see the amount of mass points that they've managed to get. Literally no upgrading of any kind. It's just not necessary at this point. And lovely little run-by happening with Brainfart's troops, T1 groups of tanks, THAMs and artilleries. TJ just doesn't really have the forces to deal with it, and Napalm has to commit quite a lot to come and stifle this attack from Brainfart. It's going to do as much damage to TJ's base as is humanly possible. He's going to pick off a whole bunch of T1 power plants and engineers. Finally, TJ manages to get a handle on that, but again, giving up quite a lot of territory. And of course, with this center sort of leaning towards the control of the Brainbunch, it's allowing them to get control of these secondary mass points. See, already both of the Brains have started work on their little forward bases, whereas the YouTube stars completely devoid of any expansion. Does begs the question whether or not they have been or spent any time practicing on this map in the last week or so. And this is promptly going to turn into absolute wreckfest in the middle of the map, the amount of action that's going on. Still, both sides focusing very heavily on getting as many factories out as possible, but look at the difference between the number of factories that TJ has up and running and the number of factories that Brainfart has up and running. It's a huge deficit. Massive, colossal amounts of mass. If we take a quick look at the economies, Brainfart sitting on around the 200 mark, Brainwash 150, Napalm 150, but floating a colossal amount, and only 100 odd for TJ, but also floating a colossal amount. So they have the mass, but at the moment neither of the members of the YouTube stars are able to effectively produce enough units to use up that mass. And, this is looking very, very painful now for TJ. Huge run by from Brainfart, waltzing into the side and back of his base, committing a lot of troops of TJ to pull back and stay in his base, and still preventing this little expansion from happening up here. Napalm has managed to get a couple of triads up, but the first one is going to go down. Just not managing to deal with the amount of Lobo and Seraphim T1 artillery spam. Now working on some T1 point defense. That's not going to last too long either with the amount of fire that's coming down. It's a very nice micro happening there from the Brainbunch. We're also seeing some T2 assault bots, so T2 land is now on the field and working rather effectively in favor of the Brainbunch. If you look at the amount of map control, things definitely not looking good. You see now a huge amount of bombers being produced for Brainfart. Could be the start of a snipe. Actually, so sniper bots on the move as well being produced for Brainfart. So T3 land is up and running for Brainfart, and it's extraordinary when you have that much mass how quickly the game escalates. And TJ down to 500 hit points, and down he goes. So a very quick game. You don't see Napalm turning this around at this point. Very, very quick game indeed. For round one, that's going to go to the Brainbunch. Napalm's going to do his best to hold out here, but can't honestly see it's working out too well for him. doing what he can. He does have a few pillars on the field. A few mongoose. Doing what he can to stem the tide. Huge quantities of T1 bombers taking out those triads. And he really does stand alone now. I don't see how there's any way back from this. There certainly isn't going to be. See Brainfart now queuing up and starting work on an experimental bomber. And a Fat Boy. Looks like a third done for Brainwashed. So if he hasn't been run over by the time those two get online, he certainly will be at the end. And we do see T3 land completed for Napalm, starting work on Titans. It's going to be too late to save him. I think even if he'd have got it up much earlier, it would have done any good whatsoever. The Brainbunch were just far too aggressive from the outset and hampered them far too quickly. It's definitely the way to go if you can cause enough of an upset in the early game on this map. See Brainfart surprised that they still have untaken mass points. Heroic Titan doing his best to destroy these units at the back of his base. Fat Boy nearly online, spanned up so very quickly, but I mean that's what happens when you have access to this amount of mass. Absolutely extraordinary. And even the experimental bomber is now looking like it's coming up to a third done. One siege tank sitting at the back, squaring off with the Titan. And Napalm just holding off the inevitable at this point. Doing what he can to take out the siege tank, but so hardcore. And just to take down the Titan first and take a few other units with it before it finally drops. Fatty is online and promptly moving towards the enemy. People complain about the Fat Boy that's a useless experimental, but who cares when it looks like that and can pummel a base like that. And not long until the experimental bomber is online also. Napalm retreating back into the center of his base, getting up some Ravagers. Thinks he's going to make the Brainbunch work for every ounce of their victory, as long as possible. So many units. That bomber is online, and that will definitely signify the end of this game. So a decent attempt by the YouTube stars. Commiserations, guys, on round one. That is definitely going to be a loss. Shove that in now. Oh! First shell takes him down to sub 500 hit points. Napalm now strafing left and right, trying to reduce the angle of attack from the turn of the bomber to prevent it dropping its bomb. It's managed to do it once. Strafing again. Scared. Changes the name on his ACU very aptly. Lovely little strafe, prevents the bomb again. Brainfart not happy about it. See if he can get the bomb off this time. And he does, and that is going to be game. Napalm couldn't keep it up. Turns out Brainfart got sick of it and just ground fired. So very nicely played indeed from the Brainbunch. So they take game one. And I've got to say, kudos to the organisers in this, because it's so refreshing to see tournaments with a wide variety of maps that are doing, a little different. They're exuding kind of different skills. It's requiring different skills from the players. It's much more interesting to watch from the casters and audience's perspective. So we move into game 2, and the losers, that would be the YouTube stars, selected to face Napalm versus Brainwashed. So this is their, I think their top player. I think Napalm is above TJ, their top player, against the Brainwashed, the Brainbunch, sorry, their bottom player. And the map is going to be 2 hills. So if you haven't already had a decent look at this map on the other casts, you can see there are slight ridges on each side. It's kind of hard to tell because there's no real difference in the discoloration of the terrain, but slight plateaus on each side. They would be the 2 hills referred to in the title, and a lot of reclaim in the form of trees as well, obviously offering much more energy than mass, but still worth picking up. A few rocks littered about which are going to offer you a nice mass boost. And of course these 4 mass points in the middle, you're going to want to try and control this central section as best you can. So down here in teal is Brainwash. He's going UEF, and Napalm switching it up this time. He's going to be going Seraphim, abandoning UEF. Obviously he felt that wasn't too lucky in the last game. I would probably have stuck with UEF for this one personally, but being as Napalm is vastly superior to me at this game, I will bow to his wisdom and assume that he knows what he's doing. You can see a few wall sections planned there for Brainwashed, certainly on the left side. In fact, wall section planned for both guys. Interesting. So that's a really aggressive early wall build planned from Napalm. So obviously he wants to cordon off this area, prevent any kind of attack coming around this bottom section, which looks like he really means business, wants to hold this middle section and kind of hem in Brainwashed. The only problem is, I imagine, Brainwashed, being the skilled player that he is, will also have the same idea. He'll be wanting to get to the middle as soon as possible. You can see one land, one air factory up and running for Napalm now. Does have a bomber out that's heading over to Brainwash base, but Brainwash does have his own air factory up and running, has produced an air scout and is now working on an interceptor, but the scout for Napalm is going to get there first, but the bomber is not, so that Inti should be able to deal with that bomber without it causing too many problems. Does get a bomb off, takes out, lovely, 2 engineers and a power generator that was building, so that's a nice little shot there from Napalm. Is it going for this one? Takes out another engineer that was going to build the hydrocarbons. So beautiful little work there from that early bomber from Napalm. Very nice maneuver indeed. That's going to help him dramatically as the game goes on, as long as he can keep ahead, keep the initiative. And you can see he's got his ACU to the middle and is starting construction on a land factory. So he is definitely going to try and gain the initiative in the center of the map, but Brainwashed has other ideas. He's sending his ACU to the middle. There's a very aggressive build order of land factories in the middle planned, and Napalm definitely wants to be producing military units out as soon as possible from this. Of course, he doesn't have the benefit of the vision that we've got, and a little bit of scouting going on behalf of Brainwashed, who has his own bomber out now and is looking for some vengeance. Takes out a power gen and a engineer, manages to get that point defense up before it goes down, but it's going to spend too much time over the main base to take out another power gen. So nicely skirting around, picking up the occasional engineer. Some nice dodging work there from Napalm, avoids that one. Bomber eventually gets shot down by a combination of T1 mobile anti-air and that one interceptor, but certainly for the moment it looks like Brainwashed has the advantage in the air. There's a lot more inties out on the field, and now 2 bombers as well, and those 4 engineers are in dire peril. 3 of them go down, and this one factory is looking incredibly lonely while this ACU is busy picking up these mass points. Brainwashed is completing his 4th forward factory and starting work on a 5th. So the amount of build power that Brainwashed has in the middle of the map is it's really quite dangerous. can see this wall section that's going up now for Napalm starts to look a little bit perhaps over-aggressive or ambitious. But we'll have to see how this game unfolds. Little line of T1 tanks there for Napalm, but massively outgunned when you look at the force of Brainwashed and the amount of build power he's got in the center of the map. This thing's not looking brilliant at the moment for the YouTube stars. Of course, this is a must-win game if they're to stand any chance of winning this match. It's a very important match as well. Both of these guys have qualified for the knockout stages, but this decides who goes on to the winner group and who goes on to the loser bracket. The winners will I can't remember who the winners are facing, but the losers will face Clan Tag, or Total Annihilation God. That's Tag Rock and his son Tag Pebble. And believe me, if you can avoid those two, you want to, basically. So that is the plan. You see, Napalm has managed to amass a nice little force now and is pushing Brainwashed's troops back. Well aware of the impending disaster because, of course, nicely equipped with combat scouts, and this is something a lot of newbies forget in the early game. You don't have to go around building radars everywhere. Just be a little bit sensible about your build orders. But look at this little force that Brainwashed has managed to sneak up around the right-hand side, and that's going to cause all kind of problems. His bomber's working on that point defense. Once he takes that out, it's going to be completely vulnerable to all of these land units, and that's going to be 4 units down, or 4 mass points down, sorry, as well as a half-built factory and an engineer. So that is going to cause all kinds of problems. Napalm managing to corner a few units of Brainwashed in the center of the map. But if you look in terms of map control, where Brainwashed is, the kind of targeted attacks he's doing on the resource gathering of Napalm is going to slowly stack up over time. He's going to be in all kinds of problems. He has managed to get some fortifications up, though, in the middle, a couple of T2 point defenses, and that's going to keep the forces of Brainwashed at bay. But Brainwashed has got some Mongoose out on the field, so he has got T2 up and running. You can see that's it there, and he's starting to work on mobile missile launchers, so he's going to try and counteract that T2 point defense with some ranged units of his own. But he may not get a chance to do much with it, because Napalm is pushing forward with a few units. Start some work on some engineers, but in come the Mongoose. With Brainwashed's ACU in near proximity, you can't imagine that this attack is going to do too much damage. You can see the units starting to thin out now for Napalm. There go the mobile missile launchers trying to take care of that PD. 3 of them up and running now for Napalm, who's actually building some tac missiles. Interesting if he's thinking about going for a snipe or just going to try and work on some mass points for to cut down on Brainwashed economy, but he's in dire straits in terms of economy now. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 mass points down now for Napalm. So he's suffered a real hammering while he's been trying to hold this middle. Brainwashed has been doing beautiful little targeted attacks, little run-bys, very, very sneaky play indeed. Of course, he's got a slight tech upgrade, not seeing any T2 out for Napalm yet. I doubt he has the economy to sustain that kind of production anyway. If you take a look at it, sort of hovering around the 30 mass mark, whereas Brainwash is on the 4750 mark, so pretty significant advantage. Well, there's a lot of mass still to be picked up, in fairness. A nasty little horde of T2 missile launchers now for Brainwash, just working on taking out factories. Everything else has pretty much gone down. And even that TAC missile launcher that Napalm tried to get up and running has gone down, and things really not looking good now for the YouTube stars. One little Mongoose making it through at the back, being an absolute pain, taking down yet another mass point. And, got some T2 air though on the field for Napalm, or at least T2 production for him. He's working on gunships. He does indeed have a few out. Would have been nice if he could get a critical mass of them together and go for a snipe, and that was probably his plan at one point, but Brainwash now sitting under a shield, and of course it would be very easy for him just to switch his T2 factory up here to start producing skyboxes, in which case that would effectively nullify any threat from the gunships. Napalm still having trouble trying to secure this back edge of his base. So much mass just uncollected, and he's got a few engineers he could be sending back, though. Of course, there's one mongoose that would wreck any engineers that come into view up here. Napalm now moving a small force of his own around, but of course these walls that are nicely put together, and it's, you see, it's a nice little work. You feel like Brainwash was slightly better prepared for this. He wasn't too ambitious like the wall sections from Napalm over here. Kept it nice and close, preventing the run-bys, secured his base, and just used these early kind of open passages. But now you can see huge run-by happening from Brainwash, who just has vastly superior units, keeping the main force of Napalm busy in the middle with his troops, skirting with pillars and mongoose at range, as well as mobile missile launchers. And while all of these units are trapped effectively in conflict in the middle, this large force of Brainwash just working on taking out these factories, and with every one that goes down, it brings the Brainbunch just a little closer to winning this group. And, air control firmly in the hands of Brainwash now, so really all facets of this game pointing towards Brainbunch now. It's only going to be a matter of time before Napalm has to call the GG. Working on T2 PDs as best he can, but the amount of ranged poke that Brainwash has in forms of mobile missile launchers. There's the GG from Napalm. Knows that there's no possible way he's going to be able to pull this back, as all the engineers around his main T2 production land facility go down. And, that little mongoose, didn't see it, but I imagine it's been denying any engineers that would be trying to get to the back. Napalm congratulating the Brainbunch. We leave tag to you. So my poor friends, the YouTube stars, will be forced to go through to the losers bracket to face off against Clan Tag. But good attempt, guys. It was going to be a tough uphill battle. You've got to like the Brainbunch for going far in this tournament now. Incidentally, it is possible, I do believe, if these two teams were to win all their matches, not a certainty by any means judging by the competition that they're up against, but they could come back to meet again in the finals. So there is the possibility that we could see more of that, these guys, but don't hold your breath, as I say, because it's a tall order for either of these teams to go through when you look at the competition of what they're up against. But it's not to say they couldn't, so we wish them all the best of luck. If we take a look at the scores, as in the placements on the table, spoiler alert here, guys, if you don't want to see, do feel free to end the video now just before I go across, because I am about to show you the current rankings, and if you don't want to see who wins, then this will disappoint you. So if we take a look at where we're at, you can see Pool 1, we have Deathly's Raged winning all their matches against Vinny Vidi, Air Snipe, Kiss My Ass, and Eisen vs. Armor. Eisen vs. Armor seemingly underperforming, I think. Everyone expected them to do better. I certainly did. But I believe it's still possible for them to qualify. Yeah, we've got one more match. Incidentally, the boxes in red are the unplayed matches, and they've got till Friday. They should have been played last week, but they've got till Friday to play those matches. It has been a slow week last week. Lots of people really finding it tough to get the matches in, finding times when everyone's free time syncs up. It's not easy. Everybody has jobs and family commitments, so we're cutting them some slack, but there is a deadline, so they need to get those done before Friday. So it's still all to play, because if Kiss My Ass win against Vini Vidi Air Snipe, then that's going to be 1 point apiece for the second place of the pool, and it's going to go down to win-loss ratios and what happened in the tournament, so I'm none the wiser what's going to happen there. Pool 2, we don't have any result yet, and we've still got Småbrots versus GG Nor, and if they win, as in Småbrots win, that's going to be 2 apiece for 3 of the teams, so it's going to be even more complicated as to who wins and who qualifies. So the game we've just seen, obviously, Brainbunch versus YouTube Stars in Pool 3, and you can see Brainbunch qualifying first in pool, YouTube Stars relegated to the losers bracket, second in pool, and they're going to be facing off against Total Annihilation God in Pool 4. You can see won all their matches, who qualified first. And slightly interesting Pool 4, I believe Putin and Charcuterie, or Charcrute. To apologise to any French or French-Canadian people listening if I've destroyed or butchering your language. I believe... Tisba, is it Tisba? I think it's Tisba from Poutine. I have it on good authority. He is absolutely swamped with real life issues, so it looks like they may be dropping out of the tournament. That's what the W and F means. So there's going to be some buys there. So working out who comes second in that pool, I'm not even going to attempt, but you can kind of get an idea now of who's going through to the knockouts. At least, I mean, certainly you can see you've got 3 of the winners there. So. And it's not a huge shock, except perhaps as I say, you might have expected Eisen and Armour to do a little bit better. But it's all still to play for. I hope you guys are enjoying it. I certainly am. But for now, that is me signing out.